From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, a new look at the changing landscape for America's farmers and ranchers. The 2017 Census of Agriculture is released.
Probably about as bad right now as it's been.
The battle to protect property and livestock continues in the heartland as another bomb cyclone continues its trek. Meanwhile, the fight to get aid from recent natural disasters goes on.
The rural Americans, we've been forgotten.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The bomb cyclone continuing to move its way east as cattle ranchers work around the clock to shelter their cattle from the dangerous ice, wind, and snow. This video, taken by a rancher checking cattle in the middle of the night, as more than a foot of snow pelts the western belt of South Dakota. Now, snow continuing to drift, with some producers telling AgDay they've seen over 18 inches thus far. The spring blizzard couldn't come at a worse time, as many are in the middle of calving season, and for some producers, this is the second blizzard they've seen in less than a month.
It's snowing pretty hard, and so quite a challenge to get around today just to get over here to check cows. It's been pretty tough, so we've got a long day ahead of us here. Just praying for the best.
Some cow-calf producers to the east not quite seeing the brunt of that storm just yet, losing power due to freezing rain, high winds, snapped power lines, and thunder snow. The water tanks for some cattle freezing over too, as producers wait for more snow to dump.
If anybody's smart, they won't drive.
The storm is making travel difficult in many areas and impossible in others. I-29 closed from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, all the way to the North Dakota border. I-90 closed from Sioux Falls to Rapid City. And about half of the daily flights at Denver International Airport were canceled earlier this week. Colorado governor activating the National Guard in case troops are needed to rescue stranded drivers. Reuters reporting the blizzard is limiting the movement and processing of corn, wheat, and soybeans in Minnesota, South Dakota, and Nebraska. No, that isn't a lake. That's a speedboat rolling down a flooded highway in Corvallis, Oregon, near Eugene. KATU capturing the footage from above along Highway 34 after more than 4 inches of rain fell this week from the same storm we're talking about. You can see this farm in the area surrounded by water. About 500 people were evacuated from their homes earlier in the week. And the storm's not done yet. Blizzard warnings continue in the plains right now, and it includes areas still dealing with flooding from last month. Let's get the latest on the track from meteorologist Cindy Clausen. Cindy.
Yeah, thanks, Clinton. It has been a nasty storm across much of the plains and the upper Midwest. The good news is that it's going to start winding down in the next 24 hours. Not so much this morning, though. We still have some nasty conditions in Minnesota, into much of the Dakotas as well, and we've been dealing with thunderstorms along the southern end of that. You could see showers and thunderstorms moving through the central and eastern corn belts. As we head through the day today, the low pressure moves into the upper Great Lakes, still dealing with snow conditions this afternoon in parts of the Dakotas and Minnesota, Wisconsin as well. As the low continues to pull into Canada, we're going to start to see that snow winding down as we get into tonight. So that's some good news. That low pressure continues to pull away. We'll start to see some stormy weather down in the south central United States as we get into the weekend. Now, as far as those winds, they're still going to be on the strong side, especially in the early part of today as we get even into the afternoon hours. Tonight, though, we start to see those winds really dying down with the actual low pressure system in the upper Midwest. They will pick up again as we get into tomorrow, especially over towards the northeast, and then with that developing system down in the southern plains. I'll have more on your national forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Clinton.
Work continues to try and get flood relief following the last round of storms in the heartland. Lawmakers are set to leave Washington, D.C. for 2 weeks, and as of right now, they may take off without passing a disaster aid bill. Betsy Gibbon joins us from the newsroom with more. Betsy.
Clinton, Congress has been back and forth and has so far failed to reach a resolution when it comes to a disaster aid bill. And that would be a bill which would provide money for wildfires, hurricanes, and flooding.
And if the Senate cannot pass a bill to provide this federal disaster assistance, the bottom line is farm bankruptcies will continue.
Congressmen like Austin Scott of Georgia testifying for a disaster aid bill for farmers in the South impacted by Hurricane Michael and more, saying leaders are giving him empty promises.
The Vice President personally came down and promised help. I was there. For months, we've stressed the magnitude of the damage to our colleagues, and for months, we've promised this was a priority for the White House and congressional leadership from both sides of the aisle.
Some of the holdups are funding for aid to Puerto Rico and additional money to flood victims in the Midwest. There are busted bins due to Midwestern flooding, which is not covered under crop insurance, a problem Congress is looking into as well.
But I've been told by the leadership of the Appropriations Committee that they are going to provide legal authority for people that have grain loss like you described will be considered for help under the usual disaster legislation that we have for other crops in agriculture.
Grassley saying it's hard to put a dollar figure on the bill because the total damage still needs to be assessed, especially with busted bins.
Later on, there'll have to be a supplemental appropriation bill.
All proposals and unknowns for now. Reporting for AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
And despite Hurricane Michael putting a major dent in supply, the market and prices for pecans in Georgia are actually lower than a year ago. The main reason for that? Tariffs with China. Damon Jones from our friends at Georgia Farm Monitor shows us what the pecan industry is doing to try to change that.
While the pecan industry had been on an upswing over the past 5 years, 2018 will unfortunately not be looked upon kindly, as these are some of the scenes that will be remembered the most in the wake of Hurricane Michael, a storm that damaged around half of the crop in the nation's largest producing state.
This will be a year that we'll remember for quite a long time. It's been pretty difficult. Like you said, the markets have been down. Storm reduced our crop in the southwest corner of the state especially.
Because of the depressed market, due largely to the recent tariffs from China, growers are looking for new and innovative ways to sell their product. And one direction they're looking at is through e-commerce.
It came about that there might be an opportunity to sell products on an online-based platform that's partnering with Georgia Grown.
It's given growers an opportunity to market directly to Chinese consumers. There's been some interest in the program and some people have taken advantage of it.
Besides providing a new way of marketing their product, online sales also has an added benefit that might really interest the farmers.
We work through what's called the free trade zone, and with that free trade zone, we don't get held back by that tariff at this point. So we are still able to ship our value-added goods, the final product with the grower's own brand. So we can send that value-added product over there with nothing but a sales tax. With trends today, online sales, even in the food industries, are growing immensely.
Because of this rise in buying merchandise through e-commerce, the door is now open to expanding the number of products to choose from. It's a fact that has certainly been noticed by the pecan industry.
And we're looking to increase the variety that we send over there. So we're looking at sending oils and butters and everything when it comes to pecans. And we're looking at in-shell packages because it could be a crackable fun snack for Chinese consumers, and it could be the candied. We're really trying to open up every avenue we can for the growers.
Reporting from Tifton, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
A big report is out from USDA, the 2017 Census of Agriculture. Some highlights here. We see a decline in the number of farms from 2.2 million, that's in 1997, to just over 2 million in 2017. The average size, 441 acres, that's up 1.6%. Now, farms with more than 2,000 acres make up 58% of all farmland.
The category of land showing the largest increase was harvested cropland, with an additional 5 million acres harvested in 2017. The largest change in terms of cropland acres harvested was soybeans, which were up 14 million acres in 2017 as compared to 2012.
Farm expenses are $326 billion, with feed, livestock, hired labor, fertilizer, and cash rents topping the list of expenses. Average farm income just over $43,000. More than 43% reporting positive net cash farm income in 2017, and 96% of farms and ranches are family owned. The average age of all producers, 57.5 years old. That's up 1.2 years from 2012. Now, 1 in 4 producers is a beginning farmer with 10 or fewer years of experience. 36% of all producers are female, with 56% of all farms having at least one female decision maker. Now, there's much more in the 2017 census, and you can look at all the numbers for yourself. Just click on the link on agday.com. China makes a surprise purchase of a U.S. ag product, and the World Pork Expo canceled, but parts of the show may go on.
Join Andrew McRae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
The equipment market is off to a roaring start in 2019. According to the Association of Equipment Manufacturers' monthly flash report, sales of tractors so far this year up 6%. Sales of larger four-wheel drive units are 25% higher, while combine sales surged in March, now 36% higher than last year. Joe Vakovic with Standard Grain, our guest today. And Joe, let's talk about the position of the funds as it pertains to like the corn market, because it's pretty interesting.
There's been a lot of talk about it. The funds are short, ballpark 260,000 contracts of corn, which would be about the biggest ever net short we've seen in the corn market for the funds. There's been a lot of talk that there has to be a short covering rally and the funds will have to get out at some point, and that may very well be the case. History would tell you that when there is a position of this size, eventually it will unravel. Now, what does that mean for the market? You do the math on this thing, they're short like just over 1 billion bushels of corn, maybe 1.3 billion. The farmer and the commercials are short, what, 6 or 7 times that? Or I'm sorry, they have the inventory of 6 or 7 times that.
Right.
So the funds could offset that entire short, and it does not need to move the market a whole lot. They could cover that whole short position. It might be a 15-cent rally. It really could be that muted. So I wouldn't look at that situation as being a saving grace for this market down the road. I mean, you're going to need some sort of fundamental catalyst to spark it first off, and second off, the way that the math adds up, it doesn't need to be as spectacular as some people might believe.
Okay, well, it'll be something to watch and see if it does happen at some point. Appreciate you being here, Joe. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
For more information about Standard Grain and its services, call Joe at 312-462-4438. Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day with Cindy Clausen, meteorologist, looking at the drought monitor, Cindy, and you almost don't even recognize this map.
I know. I mean, it's crazy. What happened to all the red that we were seeing? It doesn't even seem like it's all that long ago. This is good news, obviously, for the areas that have been in such drought for so long. But we have to keep in mind that some of these areas have had a little too much rain all at once. All right, let's take a look. We still have some dry areas, especially as you get over towards the Four Corners region, but we're not seeing any more extreme or exceptional drought, and that really is some fantastic news. But we're obviously going to have to keep an eye on some of the wet areas, especially in California, that have been overly wet, and of course where we've been seeing the heavy rain and snowfall in much of the northern plains, central plains, and into the upper Midwest. And that's something we'll keep an eye on over the next several weeks. Here's how it's shaping up as we head through Friday. Still have the heavy snow in the Dakotas into Minnesota, Wisconsin as well. It's showers and thunderstorms along the cold front. That's all going to push on off to the east. We're going to watch a developing system in the southern plains. That will really start to kick in as we get into the middle and latter part of the weekend. As we look through Friday night, rain moving along the east coast. Still a little bit of snow, but that's really starting to pull away up into Canada. High pressure starting to settle in briefly into the plains. Heading through the day on Saturday, we really start to pick up moisture with our system down in the southern plains in the Gulf Coast states. That's going to be moving to the northeast as we get into the rest of the weekend. Here's the past 24 hours, and there's been a lot of moisture. Again, a lot of this has been in the form of snow, but when you melt it all down, estimates of a good inch of liquid there. So when that all melts, it's going to be feeding into our rivers and our streams, and it's going to be causing some flooding issues there. And adding on the next 24 hours, you see it's going to be very wet down in the south central United States, also over towards the mid-Atlantic. As we look at the snowfall estimate, yeah, it's been a lot, and we're going to continue to see perhaps even up to another foot of snow, especially in areas around Fargo, up into the central part and north central part of Minnesota. So we'll still see that snow as we head through the day today, but it's going to continue to move on to the north, and we'll still see scattered higher elevation snows in the west and a little bit over into parts of the southern plains as well. Temperature-wise, still a big contrast. You've got 30s in Bismarck. You still have mid-80s down south in Texas. Heading into the overnight hours, we're going to see those temperatures dipping down into the teens and 20s. In the north central United States, still really mild in the south central part of the country. And then tomorrow we're going to see those temperatures a little bit cooler as cooler air kind of filters in behind that for the weekend in a lot of the Corn Belt. Looking quickly at the jet stream, there's that low pressure system that's going to be moving up into Canada. We'll have a trough moving across for the weekend, and then moving into the northeast United States. Another trough comes in towards the middle part of next week, bringing some stormy weather then. That's your national forecast. Now let's check out the weather where you live. Marshfield, Wisconsin, a rain-snow mix with gusty winds today and a high of 37 degrees. Oak Ridge, Tennessee, showers likely, maybe a few thunderstorms with a high of 76. Sunny and dry in McPherson, Kansas.
China makes a surprise purchase of a U.S. ag product, and the World Pork Expo canceled, but parts of the show may go on.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Keeping you updated on trade talks with China, the Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer holding teleconferences with China's chief negotiator. Mnuchin saying the two sides have agreed on a trade deal enforcement mechanism. Now, Mnuchin telling CNBC, quote, "We've agreed that both sides will establish enforcement offices that will deal with the ongoing matters." He did not say whether U.S. officials would be based in China. He did say the deal with China would be composed of 7 chapters. And a surprise about China in this week's USDA export sales report. Reports from March 29th through last Thursday show that China purchased 77,700 metric tons of U.S. pork. Now, we told you yesterday, World Pork Expo has been canceled due to concerns about African swine fever. It's one of the premier shows in the nation when it comes to showing pigs, but show organizers are still hoping to do something. Jack Wall of Certified Pedigree Swine speaking with AgriTalk.
Thinking it's going to look like just what a World Pork Expo pig show would have looked like. We're still planning on having a junior show, just like we did in the past. We're still planning on having an open show and sales, just like we have in the past. Obviously, we cannot call it the World Pork Expo. We got to maybe do some shuffling and schedules.
Wall said they should know something by this weekend. Vietnam has announced it will no longer import glyphosate. The country saying the ban was made in line with Vietnamese laws and international regulations. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue commenting on the decision, saying the move will have devastating impacts on global agricultural production. He went on to say the ban flies in the face of scientific evidence that shows glyphosate is unlikely to pose a carcinogenic hazard to humans. Coming up, a friendly competition that leads to lifelong skills. We take you to this year's Southern Forestry Conclave next.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
Forestry students from across the Southeast participated in the 62nd Southern Forestry Conclave. LSU Ag Center's Craig Gautreaux reports the event featured competitive forestry contests.
Students from 14 Southern Forestry schools participated in competitive logging events, tested their technical skills, and networked with potential employers during the 62nd Southern Forestry Conclave.
They have some fun doing it, they have some fun learning, and it's learning beyond the classroom and gives them a purpose for some of that learning that they do.
The event has both a social and professional component, allowing students to mingle with their peers and graduate faculty. Forest industry representatives are in attendance, and for some students, the event serves as an informal job interview.
They can network with each other, network with other advisors, show off a bunch of technical and physical skills related to forestry. So there is the brains and the bronze of this event.
They were encouraged to attend as many conclaves as possible.
I would recommend any freshman forester going to conclave. You might have to step out of your comfort zone, but you need to start going because you start meeting people, you start making friends. And I wish I started when I was a freshman.
The friendships you make here will definitely carry on later in life and into the workforce. So I think you're building some strong bonds.
Cameron Carney was competing in the log burling contest. He believed quickness was the key to victory.
Making the first move, so you want to be the one to make the log start moving first, and you kind of want to be in control of how it's moving, and that helps you be in control more of the situation.
With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Ochoa reporting.
And there you go. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. It's been part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.